Today, we will begin the powerful story of Dhul Qarnayn and the barrier of Gog and Magog, a story preserved in the Qur'an, filled with wisdom, justice, and lessons for the believers. Allah says in the Qur'an, "Indeed, we established him upon the earth, and we gave him to everything away, so he followed away." Surah Al-Kahf 18:84-85. These verses open the story of a man unlike any other in history, a man whom Allah granted authority, knowledge, and the ability to rule vast territories. His name was Dhul Qarnayn, the one with two horns. Scholars have discussed why he was called this. Some say it referred to his dominion over both the east and the west, others to the strength of his crown. What is certain is that he was not just a king, but a believer who saw his power as a trust from Allah. Unlike the arrogant rulers of old, like Pharaoh, Nimrod, or the tyrants who enslaved nations, Dhul Qarnayn's heart was humble. His strength was not used to enslave but to liberate, not to spread corruption but to spread justice. The Qur'an describes him as a leader who treated people according to their deeds. Those who oppressed were punished, and those who lived righteously were honored. His entire rule was an example of how true power must always bow before the one who grants it. His rise is said to have been during a time when the world was plagued by corruption, idol worship, and oppressive kings. Dhul Qarnayn was different. Allah gave him the means, the strategies, and the knowledge to establish justice on earth. From his earliest days, he set out on journeys, not for greed or conquest, but to fulfill the command of Allah, to bring order where there was chaos, and to guide people toward truth. The Qur'an tells us that his first great journey was to the west. He traveled until he reached the place where it appeared the sun was setting, in what seemed to be a dark, murky spring. There he found a people. Allah gave him a choice: would he rule them with justice or tyranny? Would he punish those who disbelieved or treat them kindly? Dhul Qarnayn's answer reflected his deep faith. He said, "As for one who wrongs, we will punish him. Then he will be returned to his Lord, and he will punish him with a terrible punishment. But as for one who believes and does righteousness, he will have a reward, and we will speak to him from our command with ease." Surah Al-Kahf 18:87-88. This was the mark of his leadership, a perfect balance of justice and mercy. The oppressors would be held accountable, but the righteous would find peace under his rule. This moment set the foundation for his entire reign. That true justice comes from Allah, and leaders are only servants carrying out his will. In this first journey, Dhul Qarnayn also showed something unique. He did not claim glory for himself. Unlike kings who demanded loyalty, riches, and titles, Dhul Qarnayn saw his victories as a test. Every land he entered, every people he ruled, he reminded them that ultimate judgment belonged to Allah. His humility distinguished him from all others. Imagine the scene: a vast army under his command, banners waving in the wind, soldiers marching with discipline and strength, the sound of drums echoing across valleys. Yet at the heart of this powerful empire was a man who bowed his head to Allah, knowing that his crown and authority were nothing but a trust. This is why Allah mentions him in Surah Al-Kahf, not to glorify a worldly empire, but to show the believers what it means to wield power with humility. Many rulers in history gained empires, but they lost their souls. Dhul Qarnayn gained both, an empire on earth and the pleasure of his Lord in the heavens. As he traveled further west, he encountered different tribes and cultures. Some scholars say that he guided them to abandon idol worship and reminded them of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. Others say that he established order among people who lived in chaos. Whatever the details, his rule was not about force but about wisdom, a wisdom that spread light in darkened lands. This was only the beginning of his journeys. The Qur'an tells us that after completing his mission in the west, Dhul Qarnayn did not stop. He continued his travels, following a path that would take him across deserts, mountains, and seas until he reached the farthest east. Each step was part of Allah's plan, and each encounter carried lessons for humanity. But little did the people of that time know, and little do we realize today, that these journeys were leading him to his most famous mission, a task so monumental that its effects would last until the end of time, the building of the barrier against Gog and Magog. For now, the story of Dhul Qarnayn's rise and his first journey to the west leaves us with one timeless lesson: power is not a prize to be seized, but a trust to be honored. Allah gives it and Allah takes it. The true measure of a leader is not the size of his kingdom, but the humility of his heart before his Creator. After his journey to the west, Dhul Qarnayn did not settle into comfort or boast about his achievements. He knew that the world was vast and that his mission, granted by Allah, was far from complete. As the Qur'an says, then he followed away. Surah Al-Kahf 18:8-9. This short phrase holds such depth. It reminds us that a believer is always moving forward, following the path Allah opens, not stopping when blessed with victory, but pressing on to fulfill a greater purpose. Now his path took him towards the east, to the lands where the sun first rises. This was not an easy journey. Scholars describe it as a trek across barren deserts, endless plains, and regions where few civilizations had spread. Dhul Qarnayn traveled with his army and caravan, bringing discipline and justice to places that had never seen a ruler like him. The Qur'an paints a vivid scene, until when he came to the rising of the sun, he found it rising on a people for whom we had not made any shelter against it. Surah Al-Kahf 18:9-12. These were people unlike those he had encountered before. They lived in a land so exposed that they had no protection from the scorching heat of the sun. Some tafsir mention that they lived without proper houses or even clothing, simple people who lived close to nature, unlike the structured societies of the West. Yet Dhul Qarnayn did not belittle them. He did not mock their way of life, nor did he seek to enslave them. The Qur'an tells us simply, thus it was, and we had encompassed in knowledge all that he had with him. Surah Al-Kahf 18:91. In these words is a reminder that Allah was guiding every step of Dhul Qarnayn's journey. He was not driven by his own will or ambition, but by the knowledge and decree of Allah. Here in the East, he showed the same principle of justice he had demonstrated in the West. A ruler must serve the people, not exploit them. Where the people were weak, he gave them strength. Where they were exposed, he offered them protection. Where they lacked knowledge, he guided them with wisdom. In this, he reflected the light of prophetic teachings, that leadership is a manas of trust, not tyranny. Imagine this journey. His soldiers shielding their eyes from the blinding sun, the air thick with heat, and the people staring in wonder at this ruler who came from afar, not to take their land, but to bring peace and fairness. Many rulers would have seen their simplicity as weakness and conquered them easily. But Dhul Qarnayn was different. His purpose was not greed, but guidance. What stands out in this part of the story is how Allah emphasizes Dhul Qarnayn's humility. Every step, every encounter, he knew that it was Allah who had given him power. He did not claim credit for himself. This is what separates a righteous leader from the tyrants of history. The arrogant say, "This is from me, by my own knowledge and strength." But the believer says, "This is from Allah, and I am only his servant." At this point, Dhul Qarnayn had reached both extremes of the known world, the far west and the far east. His rule spanned vast lands and diverse peoples. Yet everywhere he went, he carried the same message: justice, faith, and accountability before Allah. But his mission was not yet over. Allah was preparing him for the greatest test, one that would secure his place in history and be remembered until the end of times. After his journey east, Dhul Qarnayn once again followed away. He pressed forward, deeper into lands where even his seasoned soldiers had never ventured. And it was then, in these distant and mysterious lands, that he came across a people in great distress. They lived between two mighty mountains, trapped and fearful, for beyond their valley dwelled a force so destructive, so corrupt, that the people could not defend themselves. These were the tribes of Gog and Magog, Ya'juj and Ma'juj, savage nations who spread chaos, destroyed crops, and attacked villages. The people, desperate and weak, turned to Dhul Qarnayn. They pleaded with him, could he help them? Could he build a barrier to protect them from the terror of Gog and Magog? They even offered him wealth in return. But here again, Dhul Qarnayn's faith shone brightly. He said, "That in which my Lord has established me is better hard than what you offer. So assist me with strength, I will make between you and them a barrier." Surah Al-Kahf 18:9-5. Subhanallah. This response captures the essence of a true servant of Allah. He did not take advantage of their desperation. He did not seek gold or riches. He recognized that the true power and provision came only from Allah. What he asked for was not payment, but cooperation. Give me your strength, your effort, and together we will build what Allah wills. This moment sets the stage for his greatest achievement, the construction of the barrier against Gog and Magog, a structure so mighty, made of iron and molten copper, that it held back these destructive tribes for centuries, until Allah decrees their release near the end of time. But that is a story for the next part. For now, we end this chapter with the image of Dhul Qarnayn, having traveled from west to east, standing in the valley of two mountains, ready to undertake the task that would define his legacy forever. After guiding the people of the east, Dhul Qarnayn pressed further along his journey. The Qur'an describes this next stage with the same simple, powerful words. Then he followed away. Surah Al-Kahf 18:9-2. Each phrase reminds us that his movements were never random. They were guided by Allah, by purpose, and by destiny. This final path led him to a land unlike any he had seen before, a valley enclosed between two towering mountains. The people who lived there were helpless, frightened, and desperate. They had survived under constant fear of a menace that lay beyond their valley, the tribes of Ya'juj and Ma'juj, Gog and Magog, the Qur'an says. Until when he reached between two mountains, he found beside them a people who could hardly understand speech. Surah Al-Kahf 18:9-3. These were isolated people, cut off from the civilizations Dhul Qarnayn had encountered before. Their language was difficult, but their suffering was clear. With gestures and broken words, they explained their plight. O Dhul Qarnayn, indeed Gog and Magog are corruptors in the land. So may we assign for you an expenditure that you might make between us and them a barrier. Surah Al-Kahf 18:9-4. These words carried both hope and desperation. Gog and Magog were no ordinary enemies. They were countless, wild, and destructive. They plundered crops, raided homes, and spread corruption wherever they roamed. No wall or army could hold them back. The people, powerless to resist, placed their final hope in this righteous king who had come to them. But Dhul Qarnayn's response revealed the humility of a true servant of Allah. He did not seize this moment for wealth or power. He did not take advantage of their need. Instead, he said, "That in which my Lord has established me is better than what you offer. But assist me with strength. I will make between you and them a dam." Surah Al-Kahf 18:9-5. This was the heart of his leadership. He reminded them that it was not his genius or strength, but Allah who had granted him the ability to rule and protect. He did not ask for gold or treasures. What he asked for was their participation. Bring me your effort, your labor, and together, with Allah's help, we will build. Then began one of the most remarkable feats of engineering in history. The Qur'an narrates it step by step, almost as if allowing us to witness the process. Bring me blocks of iron. Surah Al-Kahf, 1896. The people gathered massive pieces of iron, stacking them until they filled the gap between the two mountains. Dhul Qarnayn oversaw the work, ensuring the foundation was strong. Then he said, Blow. Surah Al-Kahf, 1896. Fires were kindled, bellows roared, and the iron blocks glowed with heat until they turned red. Finally, he commanded, Bring me molten copper that I may pour over it. Surah Al-Kahf, 1896. Rivers of molten metal flowed over the iron, sealing every gap, every crack until the barrier became impenetrable. The result was a wall so immense and solid that Gog and Magog could neither scale it nor dig through it. The Qur'an says, So they were unable to scale it, nor were they able to pierce it. The Surah Al-Kahf, 1897. For the first time, the people were safe. The people must have rejoiced, their hearts lifted from the weight of fear. But Dhul Qarnayn, instead of taking pride in this achievement, turned their eyes back to Allah. This is a mercy from my Lord, but when the promise of my Lord comes, he will level it to the ground. And ever is the promise of my Lord true. Surah Al-Kahf, 1898. These words hold a profound warning. The barrier was not permanent. It was a protection granted for a time, but one day, near the end of the world, Allah would allow Gog and Magog to break free. On that day, chaos would spread across the earth once again. The Prophet Muhammad's peace and blessings be upon him said, Gog and Magog will emerge, and they will swarm from every high place. Sahih Muslim, Book 41, Hadith 7 received. This connects Dhul Qarnayn's story to the future, to the signs of the last day. The barrier still stands, somewhere hidden in Allah's wisdom, and will remain until the appointed time when it collapses, unleashing a trial unlike any before. Reflect on Dhul Qarnayn's wisdom here. He built the strongest barrier, yet reminded the people, do not rely on the wall, rely on Allah. Strength, security, and power are not in iron or copper, but in the decree of Allah. The wall could hold Gog and Magog for centuries, but only Allah decides when its time ends. And so, Dhul Qarnayn's mission reached its peak. He had traveled to the west, to the east, and finally, to the mountains where he left behind a legacy of protection, not of conquest or oppression, but of justice, humility, and faith. The Qur'an ends his story not with his death or personal glory, but with this enduring lesson: every achievement, no matter how mighty, is only by the mercy of Allah. But what does this mean for us today? What lessons can we take from Dhul Qarnayn's story? And what role will Gog and Magog play in the future of humanity? That is where we turn in the final part of this story. The story of Dhul Qarnayn ends not with iron and copper, but with eternal truths that reach deep into our time and into the future. After building the mighty barrier, he did not proclaim himself a hero. He did not seek statues or songs. Instead, he raised his finger to the sky and said, This is a mercy from my Lord. But when the promise of my Lord comes, he will level it to the ground. And ever is the promise of my Lord true. The Surah Al-Kahf, 1898. This verse carries a timeless warning. The barrier was never meant to last forever. One day, in the end times, Gog and Magog will burst forth. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, described this moment. Allah will reveal to Gog and Magog, and they will swarm down from every height. The first of them will pass by Lake Tiberias and drink its water, and when the last of them passes, they will say there was once water here. Sahih Muslim, Book 41, Hadith 7 received. Imagine the sheer number of them. So many that they will dry up an entire lake. They will cause devastation on earth, consuming everything in their path. Humanity will tremble, and even the followers of Prophet Isa, peace be upon him, will retreat to the mountains, unable to face them. But just as Allah saved the people through Dhul Qarnayn's barrier, He will save the believers again. The Prophet, of peace and blessings be upon him, told us that Allah will destroy Gog and Magog with a plague that strikes their necks, leaving the earth free from their corruption once more. What lesson lies hidden here for us? It is that human effort, no matter how strong, is only temporary. Dhul Qarnayn's wall was magnificent, yet it is Allah alone who holds back Gog and Magog until their appointed time. Our safety, our wealth, our homes, even our power, none of these can protect us if Allah removes His mercy. This story also teaches humility. Dhul Qarnayn traveled the world, achieved victory after victory, but always remembered the source of his success. This is a mercy from my Lord. His words echo across centuries, reminding us that everything we hold, from the food we eat to the breath we take, is only by Allah's mercy. For us today, in a world filled with trials and fears of the future, Dhul Qarnayn's story is a light. It shows us that justice, humility, and faith are the foundations of true strength. It calls us to trust in Allah's plan, no matter how overwhelming the chaos around us may seem. And as for Gog and Magog, their tale is not over. Their release is a sign of the last hour. Their emergence will remind humanity once again that no barrier, no empire, no technology can stand against the decree of Allah. Only faith will remain as a shield. So when we recite Surah Al-Kahf on Fridays, and when we reflect on Dhul Qarnayn's journey, let us remember his story is not just history. It is a mirror for the present and a warning for the future. The wall still stands by Allah's will, and when it falls, the promise of the Lord will unfold, and Allah's promise is always true.